with the Keshe Plasma Reactor group for Tuesday or Wednesday, depending where you are in the world. June 6th? Something in that range. I am in a power outage issue here where I am. So we're going to have a bit of a few issues with the broadcast, let's say. We'll just try to carry on as best we can. This is the Keshe Plasma Reactor group. And my name is Rick Crammond, your host tonight. And with the help of Vince, we'll try to get through this broadcast. Like I say, I'm on power outage right now, so my main computer is not operational. And I'm just on a very grainy iPad picture right now and on emergency backup power plugged into 12-volt battery system for my iPhone. So we'll see how it goes as we go along. I can use any support from our participants today to help out with anything that, any questions and anything anybody might have to present. Which brings me around to, does anyone have anything in particular they would like to present today?
There's 3 attendees. Oh, now you got them, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yep, there are multiple things here.
Okay.
I'm still working away on my project. Haven't given it up. It's coming along real well. The point of it is I'm in the process. I've got my copper nano coated, and I'm setting up a kit with the nano coated copper and the zinc and the raw copper and the iron in a round tub, and I'll have that accomplished, and then I'm going to spin the reactors in that kit so that I can see if I can get a plasma 3 plasma fields set up within the reactor. What I'm using for the balls are beer pong balls because they're 1.5 inches, and I'm using 3/4 inch little water. Just say they're small ping pong balls too, because that's what they look like. That's what they're made of. And so that's in the process. And I've worked on my the frame that holds those reactors so that they don't fly off and they are sitting proportionally the way I want. So I've come up with a few things. Maybe, is this what you're wanting? You want me to blab a little bit, Rick, or what do you got?
Sure, we need some filler stuff here. I can't do much, maybe some white screen work or something like that, but my video isn't very good, and I just don't have anything set up right now with no electricity and so on.
Well,
We'll just wing it. We'll probably have a bit of a shorter session today, I expect, and we'll just see how the participation goes. If people don't wish to participate, then we'll cut it short, and we'll go for something special next week. But in any case, we'll plod along here the best we can with any interesting topics that come up, and anybody has something to present, then that would be fine. So in short, Danny, go ahead.
I'll keep gabbing until somebody wants the floor. In fact, why don't I ask? Anybody want the floor?
No, you gab for a bit, Denny, and then maybe I might show a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be good to get an update from you, Peter, there about
Oh,
your latest exploits.
let me tell you, it's just that after the last copyrights, um, independent energy, and it's funny thing, Rick. I heard about Gillespie and East Souk and the power outage, and I'm just like, oh, geez, where you are? Hey, what about independent energy and independent energy
Well,
devices?
this is a good reminder that I really need some independent to be able to transform that energy to be able to run my computer. But I
Yeah.
tried that a couple of weeks ago, and I overheated something on my car, and so
Well,
so
well,
it wasn't a good system.
you gotta consider, especially when you do inversion, is that you're losing minus 30% on just the change of energy.
Yeah,
So
need huge wires going into it from your battery system, otherwise they overheat, and there's a
oh
whole
yeah, the amperage.
thing about it all. But anyway, it is a good reminder that we all need independent energy. What if the lights went out, click like that tomorrow? Bingo.
With independent
And
energy, you'd never feel it.
what do people do? What most people do is they drag out generators, and I hear generators have started up in the neighborhood here, and you hear the hum of generators and so on. That's fine for a few hours or even a day or two, but it gets really tired in the long run, paying well over $50 a day for fuel for a typical home to power it and so on. So most people don't have that fuel available, so they have to go to town in order to get the fuel. But look, what happens is the power is out in town, so therefore the fuel stations are also out of power. There is no fuel. They don't get to repower the generators and so on and so forth. And then it gets into fuel hoarding and fighting and all that kind of thing. But if people had independent energy generation, we wouldn't have to get into a feudal in terms of feuds with families and friends and everything else just to survive in a power out situation, which they estimate something like 80 to 90% of the population would be wiped out in that kind of power outage situation in any of the major cities of North America.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why what makes independent energy dash IE the exact definitions, because that's what we have to follow under to be safe. And yes, independent energy would be where a power outage like this with an independent energy device installed, you'd actually never see your lights flicker ever.
Right. And someone in the neighborhood would have that generator system that would help supply the others in the neighborhood, and it would just automatically take over.
Like an energy web. And as long as the infrastructure, so the transmission lines can go down from a substation or power source from that, that's fine. Because what happens is that with the greater percentage, then municipalities can even be their own entity in when it comes to the power generation capabilities. You just have to have a greater percentage of when it starts in the residential sector, the greater percentage of the residential doing over unity more than what they need in their time, and let alone that let's hope they be power conscientious, right? And it's not just, oh, I get free power, so I'm going to waste it every chance I get. But when it comes down to it, then each municipality becomes its own entity. So if a transmission line does go down, then each house can power each other house that doesn't have a generator and, independent energy device, and it forms an energy web. So then communities can power other communities. Yep. And
well, think about it. If each person had, for example, a megawatt of power available to them, a megawatt's a lot. I mean, a kilowatt, most households could get along quite fine with 2 to 10 kilowatts of power. And think about a megawatt is 1,000 times more than a kilowatt. So a million watts, basically, a megawatt. So if every person was, say, granted a generator that could generate 1 megawatt, but most people only need, say, 10 kilowatts, that leaves 990 kilowatts available for them to give or sell to others, for them to put into a Bitcoin farming operation that would automatically take their excess energy, put it into this Bitcoin investment system so that they get reimbursed well for their excess energy that they're able to put into the system. Whereas somebody else that used a lot of energy, maybe they were traveling all the time and just had all the fancy stuff and they needed, you know, half a megawatt of energy to keep going all day long. Well, they would have less excess that would get put back into the system, so they would get less rebate from the system. But it would still be hard to use up all that energy, let's say, without having a major company that you were running or something like that, in which case there might be hundreds of employees that put their excess energy from their package into the company, and they invest in the company by putting their excess energy in, and that gets built up so that the company flourishes. It doesn't have to pay for its energy costs. It's supplied by the local people that are actually working at the company, and so on. This seems like, in a way, it could be a way of doing this so-called guaranteed annual income, but rather than a money income, it's an energy income. So if you have a generator that is self-sufficient and is able to produce easily, say, a megawatt of power without huge building and all the infrastructure and so on, say it's a small compact device about the size of this coffee cup, let's say, and there you go. In the old days, people had 1 horsepower, basically 1 kilowatt, let's say, was the typical person that was well off, who could afford a horse or pony or donkey or whatever it was. Not everyone could afford a donkey back then. And you'd have, a donkey's actually about a quarter horsepower. So around 200 to 300 watts of power, basically a quarter of a kilowatt would be, you'd be well off with a quarter kilowatt. And those who had, say, 50 horses or 100 horses, 100 horsepower, whoa, they were actually considered to be kings and even gods back then, because who could afford to be so lavish to have 50 or 100 horses and all the stables and pastures and feed and grooming and people that need to take care of them, and the whole infrastructure for that would be overwhelming to most people back in the, say, around 0 AD time frame. So later on, you might get somebody with a chariot that had, a couple of dozen horses that ran, maybe 30 horses, pulling a chariot, 30 horsepower chariot. That's almost equivalent to a small modern motorcycle. And nowadays, everyone jumps in a car. Typical car has well over 100 horsepower. Most of them say 200 horsepower. That's equivalent to 200 kilowatts of power available. That's a quarter of a megawatt of power, basically, available to at your toe tips. In fact, the new Tesla electric cars have close to 1,000 kilowatts of power available to, basically 1 megawatt available at your toe tip. And that's how much we've increased in the last while. In fact, that increase is about a 5 to 10 times increase going to the Tesla electric from your other typical new car that's got a couple of hundred horsepower.
Can I step in a bit, Rick, here?
Surely.
Okay, so one of the things, with Tesla and Tesla Electric, yes, it does have the ability for that, but when you look at the amperage control and everything like that, it still has a very, very limited range, just because it's all current and no substance. And the thing is especially with Tesla, is that it's actually designed to need a charging station when an electric vehicle under Nikola Tesla's standards shouldn't have to be charged at all. And then when it comes
Yes,
down,
right. Good point.
yeah. And then when it comes down to the actual essentials, like you got these guys starting to do aqueous batteries and everything like that, even still, that is outdated because you just put an active energy source like independent energy in there and you don't need batteries. You can have like it'd be like off Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone, how they have the capacitance gel. Well, that gel would be nothing more than a cross-linked silicon ultra-saturated silver solution, you know, and it'd be more capacitance
Right, but
instead of
at some
battery.
point it has to be able to produce that energy to be able to move something and that kind of thing. What I'm just suggesting is that there's been a ramp up of our individual energy allocation, you might say, as humans on this planet. We got used to a quarter horsepower with the donkey, and then we went to 1 horsepower with the horse, and the big work horses came in. They almost were 2 horsepower. And then we get cars coming in, and they started out at 10 horsepower and
That's
go up to 40 and 50, and
that's
then
the other thing, Rick, that you reminded me of.
500, 1,000, and so on. There's been this race kind of for power, and now we're accelerating straight up basically at this point. So now you can go out, anyone can buy a 1,000 horsepower vehicle if they so wish, which is basically a megawatt of power available to you.
Yeah, that's
so in the future we will have more, and I think that if we're just thinking of these little generators that generate 2 kilowatts and that we're going to all be conserving power and that kind of thing, yes, perhaps, but the new technology is so much more. It's like the difference between gasoline technology, fuel technology, and nuclear technology is something like a 10,000 or 100,000 to 1. No, maybe it's even, I think it's 1,000,000 to 1 ratio in terms of a gram of gasoline fuel and a gram of nuclear fuel. It's 1,000,000 times more energy in that gram of nuclear fuel. And they say that you'd only need 7 grams of thorium to run a nuclear thorium reactor in a car for the entire lifetime of the car. You'd never need refueling. I mean, that's the increment we're talking about, a whole gradation difference of energy, so that we don't even have to think about saving energy because it's just all around us everywhere to be able to draw into where as much as you needed. If you are a creator, you needed lots of energy for your creations, then that would become available, for better or for worse, perhaps. But I see a new flourishing occurring because that's what most people complain about. They don't have enough energy or not enough money to buy the energy that they need, or they have to cut down the forests in order to supply the energy. They have to use the other carbon-based fuels that are killing 5 million people, 6 million people a year from the burning of the fuels. All that kind of thing doesn't need to occur under this new regime where you have the energy, and not only that, you have excess to be able to give to others, so that everyone has exactly what they need at the point of need. And there's no accumulating it. You don't need to be storing it. I stashed, like 10 kilowatts today in my battery, like no hoarding of energy, because it's all immediately available at the point of need when you need it. So there's no concern, there's no anxiety about, will I be able to eat tomorrow? Will I be able to have a roof over my head and heat and light and so on to be able to function as a human? There won't be those considerations because the energy is there. It's available to those who need it at the point of need. That's
Rick,
the way I'm envisioning it.
Rick, I think you might need to Also,
adjust my rose-colored glasses a bit, perhaps.
no, I agree with you, but you might need to just concern between everybody the difference between combustion horsepower and an electric horsepower due to the efficiency values. Just like the thorium reactor, sure, it can do that amount of gram fuel per lifetime, but that's because it's almost 99.999.8, efficient. So the efficiencies between combustion and electric motivation.
Well, yeah, that's another issue. Like the efficiency of the modern combustion engine never exceeds 30%. So it's, basically a hopeless case. You've got 70% of the energy going up in heat. And we talk about global warming. Well, every single vehicle you see that's burning fuels is a heating machine. It's a giant heater. It gives off way more heat than you need to heat your home. And it's just giving it off to the atmosphere. It's about pretty much the stupidest thing you could do with a world that's supposedly heating up. But anyway, I don't want to get going with that. The fact is, though, the difference between the fuels that we think of that are so important are fossil-based fuels and so on. And we go for incremental differences, like if there was a 5% increase in fuel mileage in a fleet, that would be huge news in the modern manufacturing of cars. It doesn't generally happen. If they would have to have major engineering feats in order to have a 5% increase in the fuel mileage. And at the same time, we have, like I say, nuclear being so many, I'm not advocating nuclear, but I'm just positioning that as so much more potent in the terms of, instead of needing hundreds of tankfuls of gas over the lifetime of a vehicle, you simply have a little chunk of material that's not even hazardous in terms of its radioactivity, and useful in a reactor type situation for the lifetime of the vehicle. And I mean, we don't normally conceive of that. They even built a vehicle built on such a concept. It wasn't just an idea, but it's not something they can produce right now due to the laws and regulations and so on that we have, and the whole setup of the fossil-based fuel vehicles, which is, to advocate the use of fuels. That's the whole. Vehicles are kind of like when you buy a printer. You buy the printer and you immediately run out of ink, and then you discover the ink costs more than the printer to buy the ink. So it's almost like that with vehicles. It costs so much to put the fuel in, especially with the rise in prices nowadays. It's well over $5 or $6 a gallon now for fuel in Canada. It's it's basically like buying a printer, and then they soak it for the ink afterwards. So anyway, I don't know if we need to go on too much more about that, but some thoughts at least. Let me see. Let's get back to either Danny or Peter there. Do you have something else you want? You have some other things you want to say there, Peter, I guess, in a minute, right? Maybe we want to see what Danny had to say first.
Well, there's 3 more attendees, and I see that our favorite Lee Coates here are leadoff hitters here too.
Okay, I can't. Oh, there I can. I'm going to promote these folks to panelists. Okay, that should work. Well, Sure,
Well,
we could address Lee and see if he's got anything going on.
No, I don't have anything going on. I'm too busy trying to make an income this week.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true of many folks. It's hard to keep the experiments going when you're busy trying to feed yourself or your family or whatever.
well, I can show in progress. And
Work in progress. Okay, sure, Dan.
and it's nice because you can see, well, this is what I'm approaching. This is what I'm using. This is what I'm thinking. This is how I
We
brought
get to
this
see the
about.
process, the whole process, rather than just the end result. Is
Yeah,
what
and
you're
some
saying.
things I discard, and they're no longer appropriate. Some of the little frames that I was using for my reactors, they're not appropriate anymore. They're not as effective. So let me
Right.
show you.
Well, yeah, that'd be good for you to tell us what works and what doesn't work in that
Well,
regard.
what's on the horizon for me?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
let's see. What's wrong with my video? Do I have my video?
Maybe you need to be allowed to start video. Let me see if that's available to me here.
I got it, Rick.
Okay, yeah, I see it is here. It's checked. It should be okay.
I won't know what my camera's doing until after I see. I didn't do any prenuptials here. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. Okay.
Let's see what we can do about that. I will ask to start video for you. Did that work?
Yeah, there's something happening. I see my hands there. Well,
yes. Okay.
This is a jig that I'm making. This is going to be my see-through reactor where I was using a pipe that I was heating up and flattening out and drilling holes for my reactors. And so those little, that's no longer available to me because it's not as efficient. These are no longer available because I can't hold the balls in there unless I tape them in, and that's not efficient. So that's, there it goes on the floor. That's why I went to this system. It's a little sloppy, but it could be made better. And so I have to adjourn for a moment and take care of Chris.
Okay, thank you, Denny.
I got more to say, though.
All right, we'll get back to you then. Thank you. Let us know. Okay. Let me see here. Peter, do you want to go on with what you'd like to talk about? I'm not hearing Peter there, so maybe he's busy. Your mic's not open, at least, Peter. Okay, does anyone else have something they would like to show for show and tell here at the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group?
Hello, Rick. It's Doug again.
Hi, Doug.
I wasn't going to show anything, but I had overheard an interesting conversation yesterday when I was at work with the government energy supplier in the state of Queensland, Energex, and two employees of the utility were talking to each other about solar energy, and one was saying they loved it and they thought it was a really good idea, and the other was saying that solar energy is causing huge problems with the grid because of the feedback of energy into the grid, which is basically an AC. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not technical, but I was listening. It's an AC grid, and the energy coming back in is overloading the system during the daylight when nobody's using as much electricity, and it's blowing transformers, which is costing an arm and a leg. And he was saying people are wondering why their bills are going up, and they're blaming the energy utilities for just, price gouging, when all of this green, they call it green energy, is being supplied from housetops. And Australia's got the greatest uptake of solar panels, I think, in the world, because we live in a very, very sunny country.
Yeah.
And I was not participating in the conversation because I didn't want to interrupt their flow, but I was wondering to myself whether the gentleman who was arguing against solar, he also said until there's a storage system involved with solar panels that is off-grid, this problem will continue.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just finally, Ricky was just saying that. I lost my thought. There was a thought bubble just popped.
Well, about battery system backup and off-grid and so on, and they said something about that. Perhaps maybe it was in regard to the Tesla system, the Elon Musk his battery manufacturing company. Elon Musk recently went to Australia and talked to the Prime Minister. Is that what you call it?
It was the Premier of South Australia, and he actually built the largest of his banks of his batteries in South Australia that are the biggest in the world, and they're using them to bridge any outages that occur when there is a fault.
Yeah, that's right. He made a bet with them that if he couldn't solve his problem within 90 days, I think it was, then he gets the whole system for free.
Yes. Yeah.
So apparently it worked at least enough, and they're continuing with that so far as I know.
Yeah. The thought bubbles just come back. My thinking, listening to this gentleman talking, was that is he just saying this as a line that's been given by the utility companies to keep the old system, the AC system with the big generators and the power stations, and any alternative without more development is ruining it all. I don't know myself, but
again, this has got to do with the systems that Peter was talking about as well. Like he's connected with a company that's got a system that's made to integrate the battery systems, the solar systems, the AC grid system, and so on, to be able to take any type of power, including plasma power, and then convert that into something that the grid can actually use, and it doesn't interfere with the grid. Certain wave functions, right?
I can explain further on that.
Okay, go ahead. That's your area of expertise, I believe.
Absolutely. Well, when it comes down to the advanced smart energy management system, is that it is rated as military grade or higher. It's actually rated for space grade type systems. And now one of the main buyers of this company and their systems would be the U.S. Marine Corps. So, they're rated for integrations into any type of alternative or independent energies that are available. And of course, independent energy has its four principles: natural electromagnetics, plasma, zero-point energy, and geometric energy. Alternative energy has solar, wind, tidal, geothermal, and combustion plasma. And it is integratable with that, with 7 different programmable modes: net metering, off-grid, grid interactive, you name it, it's plug and play, submergible, great stuff. And that's what one of the things with the definitions of independent energy devices is that what we based off of is that military grade or higher, which would be space grade, for that quality. Like, independent energy devices are all rated, even though most independent energy is multiphasic. But even with the singular phase and 3-phase systems, is that it's still rated to handle any extreme environment on Earth, including submergible, like to the point where if a tidal wave came in, you'd see nothing but glowing lights under the water.
Peter, may I ask, it is Peter, isn't it?
Yes,
Your
sir.
name? Yep. Pete, when would that see the light of day, if ever, in a public sense? Is it just a military thing, or why don't they expand that out if it solves these integration problems? Do you have any idea about that?
Well, the thing is that it's already into the public domain, and it really is, but it's borderlessing alternative energy, and it's actually my corporation that's doing the push to the independent energy, is because of how much those systems are rated, right? And we actually have a lot of improvements that we're going to be doing with them as well to those systems to match it to our grade of devices. So originally, independent energy devices was rated for the military grade and higher systems, and then since we've developed it further than their point, then they'll, with help from us, is that they'll develop it further into the point. Like, it's already capable of submergible and everything like that, but I'm talking like, more higher uses of nanotech, more higher uses of resonance shielding and things like that. So it's already available right now. Like, independent energy is here now, vetted, in existence. It's especially in Canada here. Souk is from where we are right now, and I feel sorry for Rick and his power outage, but I'm on the other side, so I don't have it.
Well, Peter, explain how independent energy device works. Like, you still have to have a generator somewhere, something that generates the power in order for your device to be able to, change it or put it out to the grid or do the interchange and so on. Because you're talking about basically like a transformer device or something that. Well, we're getting a lot of microphone noise. Who's got the microphone open? Is that Peter or somebody else there? That's really noisy. Sorry. Okay. Now I can hear again. So I'm wondering, is what kind of system would actually be producing power if there was a power outage, let's say, and no battery backup or solar power or wind power, or would you need those systems in order for your system to connect and work with the grid?
Absolutely not. Well, see, the thing is with the grid is that in reality, the grid is actually static. And a lot of people don't understand is that the grid lines, and what you see is the AC on the bottom and the DC carrier lines on the top, but they always need grounding poles and everything because they actually use the phase convergence of the Earth to pull the electricity along the lines. And now what happens is that it actually reverses to the point with multiphasic technology from independent energy, which a lot of it is. And then what happens is that the resistance of the traveling line goes to zero. So we can do all of that. We can do the energy networks. We can do it all. Independent energy is the main principle, is that it takes both things of free energy. There's Nikola Tesla's type of free energy, which is free with a space energy, and that is pretty much over unity. And there's the government's form of free energy, which is free dash energy, which is nothing more than creating a system that performs work. And now what happens with independent energy is it actually combines those two. So the system that performs work, that work is over unity. And with over unity, you can have active power. And in the multiphasic sense, it gets rid of 120, 220. You could have a 600 volt with a 120 thing plugged in with a DC voltage in there at the same time on the same receptacle, and it'll power it all. Just like that's why plasma is principle 2 of independent energy, natural electromagnetics, 0-point energy, geometric energy. It's all multiphasic and self-sustainable.
But you still have to have a generator somewhere to produce that 600 volts so you can transform it into the 120 and other such systems and so on. So I'm trying to understand where that comes from as such.
Well,
there has to be a source.
Well, that is the thing, is that the independent energy device is the source because it's based off of natural rotary electromagnetics, plasma, 0-point energy, and geometric energy. So you can take one of those principles, or you can take them all, or you can take natural rotary electromagnetics and 0-point energy, combine them, or you can take plasma and geometric energy and combine them, or any one of those. And it's all over unity, so it creates more than it uses. So it's all
well, it's okay in theory, but I haven't seen any device yet that can do that, actually do that. So where are the devices? Are you waiting for the devices to come along and then plug and play into your system kind of thing?
Well, the thing is that now that the actual operational classification, which is independent energy in its entirety.
Independent energy. The energy just came back here. Yay. Thank you. That was the key word that we needed here. That was the magic word for tonight was independent energy. The lights came back on. Thank you, Peter.
Well, you just got to have faith.
We sent our vibes, Rick, to you in that chilly, cold, dark room, and bingo.
Yeah, I'll have to get my system back on here.
But don't worry, I could feel
some things are running that shouldn't be here, so I'll just be back in just a second. Just carry on here.
All right, yeah.
Peter, if I may ask,
go for it.
Why the bills keep going up then, and so on? If all of this is there, as you're saying, is it mass produced? That's what I'm just trying to understand, or is it just a small research and development type of situation for the public? I'm talking about, so that when Rick suffers his power outage, or in India they have load shedding, or anywhere where the grid isn't sufficient to supply, is there plan, or is there a rapid rollout of all of this that you're talking about going to happen?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like with the support and with the support that's coming along into fruition here, I'm talking about like within months. And that's the beautiful part about independent energy, is that it can be utilized all across the globe in any situation. It's rated for any situation, so we can utilize it anywhere at any time. And with the operational classification, then that makes it so that the public can use it without having to worry about disappearing or stuff being burnt down or anything by the oglarks or any of the deep state.
So with Mr. Keshe's generator or independent power supply system, there was a demonstration in Italy where he plugged in different voltages and so on, AC and DC, without any problem. So you're sort of providing a large-scale interface that just in time for the new plasma-based energy systems to operate, whether they operate through wires or not. Would that be a fair thing to say, that you're coming along with the necessary technologies as they exist at the present time to assist the transfer over from the purely old fossil fuel burning systems to the new systems?
Well, absolutely. So what goes on is that it was always about operational classification. Now, Nikola Tesla was supposed to do this operational classification, which we did as independent energy, but he got caught up in bloodlust. And in his last interviews, he actually stated that he got caught up in bloodlust. And the thing is that it's not about cutting grass. Like Milk Marine Energy Productions Limited, we're not landscapers. We do not cut grass. All we do is rearrange a few blades. And that's what's going on now, is that the operational classification is what was stopping it this whole entire time. That operational classification destroys a 250 plus year cover up of these technologies. Now we see all this in the movies rubbed in our faces. We see all this talking about, you know, deep state and everything, secret space program. Well, all this is there. Like, this is independent energy allows us access to all this. And within 2 years, you know how they say the globalist military industrial complex is a century more technologically advanced than us? Well, with independent energy, within 2 years, we'll be caught up 75 years. And that's the type of gravity of the situation that comes into light, is that it grants the knowledge and stability for the entire human race. It's exactly what the Galactic Federation of Light wants. And principle 2 is plasma and independent energy. And whether the Foundation likes it or not, they're going to have to eventually succumb to the idea that independent energy plasma is principle 2, because that's the operational classification for all of us to work under. And under those pretexts, then we'll be safe and we don't have to worry about ignitions from foreign sources and stuff, because they do not control it. The only time they ignite is when they control it, at least one of the things, market value or definition, and they control none of these.
Hi, Peter. I have a question. Could you explain this company? I mean, who is it private? How are they able to do this?
Well, the funny thing is that Milk Marine Energy Productions Limited is actually my corporation, and I'm the owner and CEO of that corporation. So, in part with the corporate responsibilities of that being limited and being federally incorporated, so we can go across Canada. We already have our subsidiary in line for an LLC to go global. That's just all interdictions of international law and blah blah blah, which is irrelevant at this point in time. And then what happens is that the corporation is more like a delivery system than it is an actual primal operator. So because remember, it's not just the definitions and principles of independent energy, it's also the documents that support that, the viable and vetted documents that support that and grant it that initial double protection. So naturally, you'd think, especially with copyrights, it's the main basis of copyright is to protect the integrity of such documents. So what happens is that
Peter, may I say, it doesn't sound terribly independent when you're subject to all the mountains of paperwork and regulations and so on that you're talking about. You know, it just seems that it's tied up in red tape. You've said it's why it's taken so long for even the advancement that you're talking about to come about. I just wonder how that can be removed and without limitation, everybody can live with what they need, in a totality of not just having electricity, not just that, but having health, having protection from the volcanic ash that's about the earth at the moment, the earthquakes, and we have bushfires, for instance, in Australia, where I see the Tom Sellis oasis just being so valuable, and to protect from these natural occurrences. Is that the direction that you would be heading in, do you think?
Well, protection from the natural or not so natural occurrences, because a lot would have to be interfered with geoengineering and the ability to do all these things as well on a part of nature. So that'd be an entirely story altogether. But when it comes down to it, is that everybody will be able to utilize this. It's all about the operational classification that goes globally. And the thing that you said there at the start is that because I'm under common law, so the red tape thing is that because I'm under common law, is that it makes even the copyrighted property turn into real property, so that it actually stops even Canada, corporate Canada, from declaring it national security. Because for one, under common law, I'm a sovereign and I'm not part of corporate Canada, so they have to make a for value offer. And because they've been bankrupt since 1933, same with every Commonwealth country that signed their and every other country that signed their shares over to the Bank of International Settlements, then there is no value offer there. Now, let me tell you the value of independent energy. Let's just say there's not enough mined gold, which is negative tangible assets, not fictional positive value debt notes like fiat currency. And you have to take that into mind as well, because that'd be part of value, right? So they try to say, oh, it's worth this many billion, but really those billions in real value would be worth thousands. You see, so when it comes down to it, is that this is actually real property, which can be used globally. Well, not even globe, because Earth's not a globe, but worldly, I'd say. Then absolutely, it's real property. It's operational classification that can be utilized across the globe right now. Right now, I mean, like this minute, it can be utilized as long as, and I stress enough point, you're only safe if you stay within the definitions and principles of independent energy. You stray outside of that, then it's fair game on your ass. They can come and swoop in and black ops and all that shit on you. But if we stay within the definitions and principles, then as such guidance and light shall be put forth, right? It's simple. It's so simple, and it destroys a 200-year cover-up the energies and plasma, natural electromagnetics, zero-point energy, geometric energy. It's all there. It covers hundreds of thousands of devices. You guys are right in on it. Keshe Foundation is right there.
Can I ask you a question regarding this?
Sure.
I live in California, and they're talking about here they want to control the water, you know. And if I think plasma is in the environment, water is in the environment. In reality, almost the source, it would be the plasma or the water or the soil or plants, everything is in the planet. It's not, it's I don't know how to do it, but basically if everything goes into a common law, like you said, they cannot touch you.
Exactly. Oh, absolutely. A couple sentences can destroy governments, especially in the United States and Canada, because they are Commonwealth nation states of the British Empire, which under the Treaty of Verona back in 1211, where King John signed over that to the Vatican. So really it's Pontiff of Rome, and it goes under canon law, which common law goes under, then it's international maritime. So it's those two combined, common law and international maritime. And yes, they cannot stop you from procuring water, food, resources, stuff like that from the land and everything like that of the host nation you're in, but you cannot go in excess either. It's really fine pointed to the exponents of the ability. Like if I want to go out and catch a fish, I don't need a license to do that. I can catch a fish, but I'm only can catch one fish under common law and international maritime, enough to provide sustenance. And that's the thing, is that under this is that there's a lot of legalese keywords like sustenance and things like that that are in quotations that ignitate regulation on, which even under a common law aspect is still fair. Like it's by far God's law and the way it should be, but even yet still you're held accountable. And that's one of the downsides of the common law, is that yes, you can do that and procure water. And for your situation, Estella, what I'd suggest is you use a good dehumidifier at night outside, and then you use the CO2 plasma to help purify the water on part of electrostatic and filtration, and maybe some settling filtration on top of that water, and you'll have more than you need to drink. It'll be like a fountain.
Do we,
I'm
Peter?
impressed with your knowledge.
I am too, Peter. Thanks, Estella. Sorry to butt in. I'm just wondering, it sounds like whether common law or any other law, because all these complex systems of law have been put in place and the word legalese and complex language, you know, that puts us in a spider's web of things we have to struggle our way out of and untangle and try and sort out which is better and which is worse. And they're all created upon this planet by human beings with various motives. And Mr. Keshe keeps on saying universal laws and universal ethos is really where we're going. And then you eliminate, by not giving your energy, you can just bypass all of that spider's web. It disappears, it vaporizes when we change our plasmatic level, if you like. We elevate out of it, and it simply doesn't exist. And I think shortly there'll come a time when people will just simply walk free. They won't give that energy anymore to the complexities of the old, and they'll start afresh. When Mr. Keshe or Rick or Sandor want to, they'd say, "Can we blank the whiteboard? Let's blank it and just start afresh now with a new idea." I think that's about to happen all over. For people in the jungle, and you know, whether they can read or write, it really doesn't matter. It's, you know, abilities that we thought were impossible are going to come to us, and we just simply started afresh. It's my humble opinion.
I absolutely agree with you there. And the thing is, you know, with the saying, "There's nothing new under the sun." So really, have we ever started afresh? And you know, when it comes to that point. The thing is everything with environmental reconditioning and everything like that, an N-CVC or N-CFA can take care of that. That's using nanocell technology. And then the other things is that with celestial acquisition, now Keshe talks about this, about universal ordinance and everything like that. Well, yes, absolutely that is, but because this world is under divine acquisition right now, because the gods stopped personally getting involved, which is divine rule, now it's divine acquisition, and we're just coming into the phase, which is the golden age, back to divine rule. And that is a precipice of what he's talking about, is that we are still in acquisition, so there's still, how could you say, leeway and circumstance before it comes back into solidarity and freedom. But we must have to achieve past that great deception of believing things like Armageddon and stuff, when we wouldn't be in a golden age if there's Armageddon. That's simulated. That's crap. And the thing is that with the Schumann resonance increasing, which is the prison of our minds, and it is plasmatic because it's on the multiphasic frequency, because it has a greater variance than in standard projection, plus minus 5%, right? It could go higher than that. Then it's in that exponent, that resonance is multiphasic. And now naturally, back in the Egyptian times, that resonance was at 1478. Coincidentally, that's almost the exact same frequency as an actual horsepower in electrical frequency, is 1478 watts. And that's the funny thing about it. You know, combustion is 740 watts. And that's why, you know, a lot of times it's considered horsepower is 2.7 electric to combustion. So if you have 1 horsepower combustion or 1 horsepower electric, you'd have about 2.73 horsepower combustion. And it's kind of the same principle in the universal constant as well. And then for this plane, especially under divine acquisition, then we can only achieve as much light as put out because of the suffocating darkness and the veil and all of that combined. So really, when it comes down to even us feeling better, and we'll notice more abilities, sometimes the resonance effect upon our pineal glands and everything like that, depending on how calcified it is or not. There'll be nausea, dizziness. You can supplement those with some CO2 plasma GANS water. It does actually great for corresponding your frequencies. And the thing that was said earlier was about the resonance frequency of your body, which is the bioelectric resonance. And that alone should be around the 532 hertz frequency. And because of standard music at the 440 hertz, which was Nazi officer Grubel back in 43, they changed it to 440 hertz, which 440 hertz divided by 12 is 36.6667 in pure tone. And then what 432 hertz divided by 12 is 36.0, which is a pure tone, which is what the operas and stuff used to be, but they changed it, frequency degradation. So it's all a combination of this that really responds around resonance and multiphasics. You know, plasma is multiphasic because, like Keshe says too, it can power whatever the load demands. It doesn't matter what frequency or AC/DC it is, it's multiphasic. It powers whatever's on demand, or however multiple are on demand. And that's the beautiful part about it, is that it renders most my corporation's actually already initiated discussions with the Canadian Safety Association for doing a standards development committee for independent energy. And what that actually would entail is that even the Keshe Foundation, everything, this is in the works right now. We'd start submitting electrical diagrams, things like that, research to correspond with the new standards developments for this integration into societies. Like, sure, under common law and stuff, we can do the 3 rules of common law, but when it comes to such a brainwashed and conditioned society, you got to kind of break it into slowly. So that's what's going to happen, is it's going to be slow, and it's going to go, and it'll be a smooth flow transition. You know, it's going to be absolutely marvelous, and it's already here. It's already happening. Independent energy is real. Like, it has value. We can operate under it right now, but as long as you stick within the definitions and principles, that's the only, at your own risk, right? So if you don't stick within those, then it's at your own risk. But it's open.
Thank you, Peter.
Yes, thank you, Peter. I just wanted to say I just need a co-host here now so I can shut off my iPad and not have something go astray. Anybody volunteer as co-host?
Rick, you were doing so good at host and co-host at the same time. I tell you, talk about multitasking.
Can't do everything all the same time. Denny, I know you didn't want to do that, so
yeah, but I can do it for a while.
Okay, that's all.
Settle down, and if I run into problems, I'll let you know.
Okay, yeah, it's mostly just for recording and background. Okay, good, thank you, and I'll try to get out of my iPad here.
Oh yeah, Rick, I think I forgot to tell everybody the actual definition of independent energy. And I'll type it out in the chat here of how it's actually spelt and has to be used grammatically in order to indicate what is being referenced to, right? Like, this is all part of the thing that's we follow through in the beginning, because it starts that change and nothing can touch it. Nothing. It's here. It's now. It's real. It defeats that cover up. The definitions have value. They are vetted. You cannot change them and have any type of steam value. They're made that way. It's divine acquisition, right? Going into divine rule again. So I'll type it out in chat here.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to type it out in the other live streams, you can, or if someone else wants to do that.
Yeah, I can paste it in if appropriate. All right, just getting situated here with my system reactivated. So
well, when you're ready, I'll jump back in too.
Okay, thank you, Denny. I just saw there's something in the chat from Maria. She mentions in Tesla's time, there was a professor in the old German states and he constructed both a light bulb and engines for cars that ran on space energy, but they killed 5 of his scientists. And then the professor has walled in all the documents. Maybe they were lost in the war. He was a friend of, the professor was a friend of Nikola Tesla. Okay, thank you for that information. Okay, Danny, if you want to go ahead with your little presentation there, I think it would be a good time.
I'm on video.
Okay, let me get you pinned and, oopsie daisy, spotlighted. I'm just trying to get that to come up here. Come on. There we go. Alrighty, we're ready for whatever you have to present, Danny.
Well, I can give a little explanation of why I'm going the direction I'm going and why I'm departing from some of the other. Let's get this down here a little bit so I can see my table. Okay, this right here is like a little needle point crafter's thing made by Yarnology. And what I wanted this for was to because it was porous. It was a way to get the plasma to filter through there without too much problems. Now, I've gone to these kind of balls rather than these kind of balls because I don't need to put any kind of fluids in them. I'm after the plasma fields. And how I've decided to make the plasma fields is I use a tub such as this, and I set up my coils. They're hanging in the water. I've already got them nano-coated. I'm in the process of making these. It's not something wishful. I have 3 nano-coated copper coils that are set in there in a triangle around the edge, and in between those coils there will be one. This here is galvanized steel wire, so that acts as my CH3 generator. I have a zinc wire that here's one here. I just haven't stretched it out yet, and then I have my bare copper. And so on top of that, I'm setting up the motor to spin. I don't know exactly whether I'm going to just make a treadle or do it independently with just spinning my reactors. I'm putting, these are the ones that make the main star formation. These are the ones that make the outside ring. This was a precursor here. This one here doesn't sit here, was a precursor because I wanted to be able to keep those reactors once I had flight or whatever. I didn't have balls falling all over the place, and that's why I went to this. And this here is a jig that I'm making, and I'll set up and I'll set these in between these two little, there's 2 plates right there, you can see them, and I'll set this up to where I can cut all these holes out and they'll all fit exactly the way I want them. There will be 2 of these with spacers, There will be 2 of these with spacers, and also down at the feet, there will be these that sit at the top of the reactor. Let me see, I got a little drawing here that I put together before I went. And just so that this is just a concept of before I went out and started drawing up and just put my dimensions together. First, once I found these, they came in, what was it, 9 and 3/16. So then that meant I needed to design my reactor, my flight system. This is what this is. It's a flight system. And then I'm after smaller balls than these, but right now they're half the size of these. These are 3/4 inch, and the ones I'm getting, I'm have to wait to do that. They're 3/8 inch. So then I can make this reactor system even smaller. And then as what I'm doing for that kit is I'll set either the motor on top or the gearing on top. I've already started to set that up, and what'll happen is the actual spinner that goes down in the center will also have a bushing that sits right in the middle and at the top, so that my reactors that I'm spinning in that particular kit, I'm using a system that Mr. Keshe talked about in one of the knowledge workshops about 4 or 5 weeks ago, of how if you would spin these reactors in a combination plasma kit, then or GANS kit, whatever these are called, CO2, this would be a combination CO2 kit. And so next week, I should be able to show that. My timeline is I'm pretty much on schedule. I should be able to have 4 of these ready to spin these balls. I have in this reactor. Just a moment, Chris. In this reactor system, I have 24 of these and 4 of those. So I'll spin all 4 of them at once, and I'll spin, see, there's 24. I'll probably spin 8 of these at a time, and so that I can speed up the process. If you spin them one at a time, it'll probably take too long to do that. Well, that's that gives you an idea of where I'm going, and it's just taking a little bit of time to gather the resources and the materials to the stand that I'll be using that pulls this together is just 1/4 inch nylon all thread that goes up here and up here, and fastens this one up here to hold the top reactor and the 3 reactors that go to the bottom. And then this right here is the I decided to use star formations there on the edge, 6 star formations that go around the edge of this as well. A little larger than I want to do in the pattern, but it works out that way. And so I'll see how it works in real life. And the stand, Okay, that just gives you a little progress, how things change as you start to redesign and develop and try to reach for what you really want. And the thing that I wanted was I was having difficulty having these little balls slip out of their sockets and roll away. So I chose this system to keep them intact. And this is just there for display purposes. So they don't run off. And they're even a little bit free moving. And however, I wanted something, if the system worked, I wanted something that I could show and duplicate. People could buy this stuff off the shelf and they wouldn't have to do all the cutting and heating and flattening these out. They still have to drill the holes and everything, but that was my motive to go to this. So, and to go to the all thread is easy. This right here, when I'm doing this, this is, it's not difficult, but it's a process where all thread, you purchase it, drill a hole, fits through it, put a little nut on it, tighten it up, stands. So that's the direction. That's what I have to show and tell today. And we'll see how far I get next week.
Denny, I got a question for you.
Who are you?
It's me, Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Yeah, so when you're doing your balls there rotating, are they all clockwise or is there some going counterclockwise? Like
it doesn't really matter as far as I'm concerned. And but I can do that. It's just a matter of switching. If I use a belt drive, I can just cross the belt and I'll change the direction of the spin. If I'm so, to me it doesn't matter which way they flow, but I may be wrong, and so all that has to be done in testing. So I go the easiest route first, and then if that doesn't work, then I check out and see, well, why didn't it? Maybe the idea itself was wrong. Maybe the whole concept was wrong. Maybe all I have to do is tinker with this and that. I do know that I really don't have any control system on this yet, unless I'm using my emotions and my soul. And so I don't have any switches off and on now, or any filters that I can shift into place that will deflect the plasma. And so that is something that I'll have to figure out as I go. How can I deflect the plasma so that I can get it to go the direction I want it to go? How do I set these different sizes of ships up to where they're beneficial for one another? And how do I lock them together? Like this right here would be a larger ship, then I might want a smaller ship right here. And so, and I'm assuming that when I put this plasma field in here, now, like you said, which way am I going to rotate that when it sits on the top? Should it rotate different than the 3 on the bottom? And in that case, I may have to go and tinker with that and see if it's done. And it's the same thing. I have these star formations. You just don't see the top one on top yet, because after this was made, I changed my mind on materials, and then I went to this flimsy material because it was porous, and it was something that anybody could purchase, providing that, and these are something that anybody can purchase. They're relatively inexpensive. I think I spent $10 for 250 of these. I spent something like $11 or $12 for 144 of these. So these are relatively inexpensive, and so they're and these actually are fairly inexpensive too. That right there was something like 76 cents or something. So that's, and it's not as time consuming as what I was doing previously. So I'll just progressing out of from one concept to the other. What do you think on the spinning of those balls? Do you think that I should spin the ball on top a different direction than the three on the bottom?
Absolutely. Can you bring that the holder unit you had there? Could you bring that back in the camera, please?
This one?
No, the other one beside you there, just down below. Yeah, okay, that one. Yeah.
This is completely incomplete because it's not doing. It doesn't have the top ball.
Of course, of course.
There's six star formations there, and this is the outside ring of the unit that I was making.
I'm just going to use it for an example.
All right.
Okay, so you see how you have the 6 bigger holes, and then you have the 6 smaller holes. Well, now
they were just air spaces, so that.
Okay, and I see how you got the triangular, the 3s there. So what you'd want to do is all these small ones, you'd want a different way than the middle, than having the 6 bigger ones go. So, or you can alternate it. You have this side do counterclockwise, that side do clockwise. It all does different fielding effects. But you'd want to have, as for stability control, that's what you'd have the small ones spinning either all of them clockwise, all of them counterclockwise.
Let me see here. Let's take a look at this. There's a ball that'll sit above here in the star formation. And there's one that'll sit here in the star formation. And there's one here. And all was in the process of making a little.
You need at least one.
Like the top. Okay, go ahead. Tell me what you want.
Okay.
Tell me what you're saying.
You need at least one source of that negative component. So that'd be, let's say, if all of them are clockwise, you'd have to go counterclockwise because that'd be the substrate of the heartbeat, as in most plasma frequencies.
You could alternate them. Since there's 6, you could have 3 go one way, 3 go the other.
Absolutely. And when it comes down to, especially with flight control, then that'd be direction, control, pitch, agitation, all that.
And so, yeah, that's why I'm of course I don't, depending on how large these things are or how small the balls are, you can put more little star formations around the ring too. Actually, you may only need 3. You may not need 6, but 6 is good because you can alternate. Because it's an even number, you can alternate things.
Or you can do 9.
Yeah, and 9 is fine, and a lot of people like the number 9. It's just that in this particular one, 6 was fine, and they're not making these into star formations. I just chose a star formation because I'm looking at, I've got the field up here at the top. Maybe this picture here is even, I got the field up here at the top and the 3 down there at the bottom. I'm wanting it to go around, and so these little star formations should attract and then come back down. And so that was the idea of it. Whether it works or not is just in the testing, and to see if and see what can happen. Of course, there'll be another support down here to hold the legs sturdy. And if I needed to, I could put a stacker unit of some sort down here to generate current. And if that was necessary, and then of course that will change the frame. This is really simplistic. This is just to see what kind of response I'm going to have between the balls, and so that's why it's so simple. It's just a simple experiment, and then after this simple experiment, see what kind of reaction I get, if any at all. See if it's a health unit rather than a flight system, and if that's the case, smaller little units will fine. Maybe it will be a power unit rather than a flight system, and so by using this simplistic little system and frame, that's easy enough, and maybe the thing will end up I've got another tub out there where the whole unit will fit in the tub, and maybe that'll be a way of doing things. Maybe with this particular system, I'll put a let me see here. I'll put coils around this frame. It's easy enough to do. I don't know where this will take me. I just know this is a little simplistic way of doing things.
Those 3/4 inch and 3/8 inch balls, what kind of balls are they, and where'd you get them?
Okay, these are beer pong balls.
What about the small ones?
These are I can't pronounce what it is, but they're where did one go? Oh, I got one in the drawer. These here, they're a cooking device you put on the top of your water in your pan so it doesn't evaporate so fast. And it's a type of cooking. It's a French type of cooking, souffle. And so you could let me see. Anybody speak French here? Anybody cook? Have anybody used these little spheres to do that? I should have written it down because I can't pronounce it.
Whatever is the
just call them water balls when you Google it. 3/4 inch water balls, or actually they're 20 mm, 20 millimeter.
And you said that you can get them in 10M too, or not?
I can, but I have to buy 5,000 of them at a shot, and that 5,000 was going to cost me $261, and that's not bad if I can prove that something works. Then if this works, I can go smaller.
Even if it doesn't, it'd still be good for 20 years.
So, yeah, I'm looking to use these as the main star formations, and the 10 millimeter ones for the little reactors, and then I can shrink this thing down to about. In fact, that's what I bought these here for, and of course this is for the 3 main star reactors as well. And let me see, is that shining? Okay, where's those other ones, smaller ones? Oh, here they are. This is for the top reactor. These are 3 inches. These are 6 inches. These are 9 inches. I also bought some 12-inch ones, but they haven't come here yet. And I don't know if I need them. But I might use them if I want to go and put more of these star formations, like Estella, you suggested 9, right?
Yes.
And so then I would probably
because
want
you create a perfect 3 angles, right? It would be
it's the
equidistance.
yeah, I'm trying to think.
I think it's 60.
Sacred geometry type of deal.
It's equidistance. I mean, from the 360 degrees.
Right.
And then you but I don't know why you're looking at this in 2D in a flat surface, and I'm seeing this in a spheric, like it's a big ball with these little balls that you will position each ball in the star formation, but at different heights from the,
it's similar to this. And I don't have any balls down below with the 3 main balls down below, but it's similar to this, and this doesn't have the legs on it, and it's not set up. It's using the plasma to come through here to make these different, to turn these 3 into a star formation by having the plasma field come up through here. But that's not exactly the way I wanted it. And so I wanted to change it to the outside ring to be a star formation as well. And so this is basically what we're seeing, but it's been revamped, and it'll be using all thread instead of these particular. This is all handcrafted from heated up plastic pipe. And so is this. This was a 6-inch plastic pipe that I cut and flattened with a heat gun, which didn't take much. And then I ended up buying some ring, I forget what they call them, but they're hole saws. And so when I was going to go this direction, I was going to try to perfect what I was doing a little bit better, do a little bit more of a craftsman job on it. I was going to slap together as fast as I could. So then I thought, well, if I have something that works, maybe it's going to be a health unit. Maybe it's something that will generate electricity. Maybe it won't fly. Maybe it will fly. Maybe it'll fly off and I won't see it again. Maybe it'll encompass me and I'll be running alongside of it with one leg inside of it and one leg outside of it. I don't know. I was just using a simple thing. So it will be this right here is the jig that will cut all my holes to make this star formation that will set up so that everything's aligned. So when I make one, I can go make another and make another one, make another one. And so all this is a jig to do that. In fact, I have to make one more jig that is this size, so that I set up and I make certain that my reactor balls that go in there, these balls that go in here, will all fit and be synchronized. And of course, all thread has to come through here at the same spot as that you see here. This one right here represents the 6-inch. This. And these holes here are the all thread that make the frame. So it's better that I just make it next week and come back and show you. But I was just going to take some time to just explain how things change and progress, and why I'm doing some of this, because I didn't have anything really to offer other than I'm halfway in the process. And so I can't see my names over here. Go ahead.
I have a question. So if you design your spaceship like this,
right?
But then suddenly you have gangs in your body, right? And we go now with.
I'm not going to have any GANs in this. I'm not having GANs in these balls. There's no GANs that's going to go in these balls. It's going to just be a plasma field. There's going to be GANs made in this bucket. There's going to be a combination.
We are GANs. My question is, you're creating a design of how this could work as a spaceship. But then you apply the same concept to each cell of your body and you communicate, and everything becomes the spaceship, from the small unit to the big unit.
Right.
And your soul is in the center.
So,
and the command you could do is say, okay, now we're going to planet Zeus and we're gonna like use an open system of the gangs on planet Zeus is different kind of gangs. It's not COHN like here is something different, but it's the same principle.
Right. So,
but you giving the command with from your soul and with your emotional body, and you ask to rotate in a certain way. You communicate with your own gangs.
Before I place these things in the kit, in the plasma generating kit, CO2 kit, combination CO2 kit, I will put my own personal energies into these balls. And I'm also working, now that I have the frame that I have that I want, and things will hold together, we'll see if I can eliminate the kit altogether. And it's a matter of maybe I'll have to spin these balls in between my hands. I don't know. Maybe I have to hold on to them longer. Maybe.
What I see, if you create gangs already in the past, and they're getting stronger every day because you're stronger. It's all within you.
Well, that's
creating it. That's how I see it.
Yeah. So now I previously thought that when I would progress far enough, I would make the ball and it wouldn't need a container to hold it. Perhaps I will, but step by step, this ball here and using my own plasma fields, create the plasma fields that I need in this ball that will set up in this grid, which is this right here is just, again, it's just the I forget what you call it. It's not, it's
Sir? A template?
Yeah, it's a template.
You said it's a jig.
Yeah, jig, a template as well.
Oh, I had a question.
Go ahead.
You're going to have them without a stand or without a jig there as the planets or the stars. correct?
No, I'm going to have a stand. Let's take a look at this picture here.
No, I thought you said originally you didn't need a stand.
Well, no, that's what I had. You know, imagine that's what's all we would need is no stand, no balls, create the fields and be able.
I imagine that too. Yes.
But I haven't got there yet. But maybe I haven't made the decision that I will get there. Maybe I just want to get there. So okay. I think that was that answer. You have anything else that you want to say? And I think Peter took off too. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, you guys are going there. But I see how you were talking about no stands and using of course, the permeating fielding to do its own fielding. Because yes, you wouldn't need the ball or anything. Absolutely not. And what Estelle is, I guess, trying to say is that, of course, the fourth reactor is yourself, the intention. But the further corollary on that would be the intention to be the bioelectric field, which is primarily respected in the fact of not only your chakras, but also the magnetite layer in your brain, which is actually the direct correspondence to your pineal gland. And that is the manipulation, how thoughts, reality, and everything like that. So upon just visualization, upon entertainment, then one will see for in fruition. Like Denny, you're well on your way, man. I gotta say, your ingenuity and everything is you're well on your way to making it do what you want to. You just put into fact about the counterclockwise and clockwise revolutionary statures with whatever field you're trying to harness, because it has its corollary aspects in each positive and negatives for which you're trying to achieve. So sometimes it's requested upon you have them in duality to achieve that proponent. So you're well on your way. You got the structure, you got the jigs, a little modification, and you're great.
You can see in the drawing, and the bottom drawing is almost like an elevation of a human, standing.
Yeah, there's 3 legs on this, though. I just drew it.
It's a way. It's almost, it's you.
Yeah, it's you never see when I draw these things for myself. It's difficult to get my perspective where I get all the 3 legs in, and this right here is all oval, and you can see the 6. I know there's going to be 6. I just wanted to show the concept unless somebody wanted to see it. And this right, so there's 3 legs, and there's a little platform here to stiffen this up. There's this right here. I'll stiffen it up.
Denny, did you originally intend it to have a human-like structure when you drew that picture, or did that just result from the way you?
This is the way I drew it. Just the way I drew it. I just wanted to.
Oh, that's interesting. Because it does have that, you look at the little arms on it there. Yeah, like a little robot, but with this different centers, the different, free plasma centers, you could say, or you could see the head for sure, where the controlling, anyone would tell you where, if you were to say, where's the controlling reactor of this setup? Well, it's obviously at the top. It looks like the head, the part that we control with ourselves. And then you have these 2 little ones on the sides that are sort of like little mobile reactors that could be maybe articulated so they could move to different angles like our arms do.
Yeah, you guys have great imagination.
But that's the whole point.
There's 6 of them. There's 6 arms. maybe
Well,
later
that's
there'll
the
be
way it
9
is
arms.
on planet Zeus, where you might end up, you know. So maybe you're making it exactly the way that for the place you're going to, wherever that is.
When you presented, I received the message in this way, that you were doing it with your gangs of your body of this planet and this location. And suddenly, with your intention, you're making rotate those, because you're going to give the command of like saying, you know, with your field strength and your soul.
So I have 2 reactors, 2 frames out there. This was one of them. I took it apart, where the balls that I have here have have been energized by my emotions. I stuck them in I put them in my hand. I think I explained this thing the other night. I put them in my hand, and I had several things that I wanted to give this ball, and so let me see if I need to build this. I need to see my face a little bit. Okay, so I took the balls, and actually some of them I used more than one. There's 3 there. There's 3 there. Now that I'm too high, there's 3 there. So I took the balls and I gave them my energy, and then I also set up an energy flow within my body, a quick Kundalini flow, and a cycle from through the spine back down through the Kundalini points, and everything that goes with giving yourself a little extra energy. And then I, as I said the words, I gave the breath to him, basically the breath of life, and I gave you such and such and such and such and such and such. I have it probably written out here somewhere, what I said. And then I set up that particular one of these, but a little bit better. This is what I wrote. Looks backwards to me. Is it backwards to you?
Nope, it's not backwards. Just, yeah, we're starting to be able to see it there now. I'll read it. It says, wait a minute, let me get my other microphone on.
Well, let me readjust this. Let me readjust this. I can readjust this. That way it's stationary. Then I don't have a, maybe it's the light. Looks backwards. I give you life.
No, it's not backwards. It's just hard to read. It needs to be closer in order to read it.
If you can read it backwards, then great.
Just hold it there. Hold it there. It'd be good. It says a little bit higher, and yeah, there we go. Right there. Just hold it there. Life, love, gratitude, intuition, inspiration, imagination, willing, feeling, thinking, integrity, energy, spirit.
And so maybe I went overboard. Maybe I only need 1 or 2 or 3 things I can. And so as I did that, I give it a little breath of life, and I only spent about somewhere around 10-15 minutes doing this. Yep, 10-15 minutes, Chris. And then I set it down, and I was using different balls. I was using these balls for this particular one. These in here, I've lost track which ones I've given, but one of the things that's interesting about this field stuff, if I take one ball and I process it, and I set it up and I give it the energies, I can touch one and that energy can be transferred to this one. And in fact, if I do one and I place them in a group of 50, all 50 of them have the potential of having the same energy strength as the one that I gave the energy to. That is, that's a, go ahead.
Imagine that the emotions of integrity, the emotion of love within you, which is a force, because you have the emotional plasma within you of those emotions. They are representative in each of these balls, but they come from the emotional field. And you bring in a concentration on these balls because it comes from you as an intention. What you said is beautiful. I'm get light up here because I feel the emotions of what you said. Do you understand? It's a force. Right. It's very powerful, but it's not like you put it in your hands. You have to feel it as a force yourself, and you're surrounded by this star formation. You assign each one is a different emotion, but together they have a dance, a movement, and you make those rotate like you want to rotate, but they are dancing all together like music. And you need to see it yourself. You know, it's like you're creating a music in the cosmos. It's plasma flowing. That's how I see what you wrote and the balls.
Danny, can I say something about it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Please?
Yeah, I don't know why we're into this, but
well, no, it's something to do with how you were talking about how you could put the one there and it could program all 50. Well, that's because your personal bioelectric field can overpower the static quotient of the ambient plasmatic field, and then if you can overpower that, then naturally whatever's in that area per energy charge emitted to it, which it will drain you if you go over your level. You will actually do things that'll make you pass out. And is that within that area, then you can program it. And with the ping pong balls being the empty vacuum, does make it easier and more pure, as you'd say, on the inside, because it's not exposed to anything other than just slight variances in, the standard RF and EM radiation. So it'd actually be quite pure inside. So it'd almost be transductant, where it takes on the greatest property is put across it. One thing I can suggest to you is that in your diagram there, the middle ball on top, it'd be best if you at least even in the 50 nanometer level do a silver coat on that, because of the not only conductance is 6 times that of copper, but of its transductance properties, where magnesium would be the one that would rival it. And magnesium's for interdimensional gates and everything like that, but for what you're doing, you don't need to be doing that yet.
I put a liquid magnesium in my CO2 kits because of for the health purposes. If I want, see, if this spaceship and these reactors are supposed to act as health units as well as power units. And so the reason why I would put a coil on it is not so I want to feed the reactors. I want to take the energy off of the reactors so that I make, so that's why there's the stand at the bottom. And so I'm wanting to take the physical fields off of the reactor, and so to generate power to power the refrigerator and power this and that and whatever a person wants. And so that's the, yeah, go ahead.
Peter, can you explain? So if the emotional body of the human, it's so powerful, why not you create the connection of the motion of the movement through the emotion and then with the elements? Because if you think in,
are you talking to Peter? I think Peter got bounced.
Oh,
he left. He'll probably be back in a second. Who was it? Was it Jim McDonald or was it Doug that wanted to fly the flying carpet?
Yeah, Danny, it's me, and the carpet is right in front of me, mate. Yep.
And I was looking at that. How big is your team that you have with you?
Me, myself, and I.
Do you have any? Okay, so then.
And you, Denny, and Rick, and the whole family, basically. But in my own personal space, I have my beautiful wife, I have my kids, etc. But I'm the one that's got the overactive imagination, perhaps.
The reason why I asked that is that sometimes it does take a team or help. A team helps. One of the things that was discussed a long time ago was 4 people can act as plasma reactors and create the star formation with their own souls. And Mr. Keshe said that is a common thing that happens. Groups of 4 will form a spaceship and go. So then I thought, well, you might. That's why I asked if you had a team, and we could probably set aside a time where a group of us could get online and work that out with each other.
Yes.
And so.
That's a brilliant idea. Yep.
Team Spaceship sounds good. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it sounds good, doesn't it? Even look, like I was saying, Danny and Rick and everyone, even if it just hovered, would be a breakthrough in our developments, and it would please Mr. Keshe. I know it would. He would say, "Oh, hello, good morning."
Even if it quivered a little or glowed a little at night would be fine to start with, even,
So I have a question.
Not inconceivable.
I have a question to all of you, but Denny, this beautiful little carpet, I was thinking of spraying GANS water onto it, like we were talking about the clay that was said to be used in olden days to get the carpet to have the separation from the earth. What would be the order in which you would perhaps, because I will do this, but I'd like just some input and advice. Spraying this little carpet, what order would you spray the GANS water onto it, do you think, to create a gradient in a way that would help it to do what we want it to do?
Well, I guess you would take it and,
like, what's the most the strongest to the weakest, or the weakest to the strongest, putting the weakest on first and then the next strongest and then the strongest last, or the other way around? What do you think? And which of the GANSes is that?
Well, Mr. Keshe has talked about that in the past in terms of the layers, like layers of the skin he's talked about, and the skin of the spaceship as well. And they're usually the magic number is 3 for generally speaking 3 layers. So it seems like you have like a field that goes in one direction and a field that goes in the opposite direction, and they're separated by an insulator, let's say. So you might have something of a strong gradient and something of a weak gradient, but separated by something that's an insulator. So they're not mixing with each other, just the fields are interacting in a way that locks it together.
Yeah, now that's interesting, because the actual structure of the rug, which is woven, that would be a natural insulator between the different gases. If you apply gas,
you've got the basic structure of a leaf, right? You've got a top structure of the carpet. It's usually sort of fuzzier, let's say, for lack of a better word. Whereas the underneath is a totally different structure. It's usually a woven, very like a burlap sort of thing, or something that's more coarse on the bottom. It's got a different purpose, right? Same as a leaf. A leaf is different on the top surface compared to the bottom surface. And that top surface and bottom surface, they're separated by that insulator in between. That's where all the action happens in a way, but it has to have that separation of the gradients to prevent everything from becoming all the same thing. It has to have that difference that produces the gradient, actually. So you could look at that in terms of the carpet, and also think about what is that clay that you're talking about that they apparently covered the carpet with, or sprayed it with, or
they said that they dyed they dyed the wool in the clay, which was
so
mixed with water, I assume, and applied with heat to like they dye a rug with various colorings, natural dyes.
So it would be some sort of, nano-material or GANS material, without a doubt. What is difficult to say, but if you look at what is clay, just even looking up clay, I think it's considered a nanoparticles that make up clay. So you start to, it's nano silicon and so on. It's all starts to make sense and certain clays of certain places in the planet have special qualities. So they might have certain micro elements. Maybe there's radioactive clay, for example.
Funny, Iran has one of the largest deposits of uranium in it.
Well, there you go. And I bet you 10 to 1 and 100 to 1 that is found in clay. That uranium is found in a clay type deposit or something,
Somewhere in Iran, there's a place where they would go to get this special clay, and it probably had radioactive ingredients and other things, and it just happened to be accessible to them, and bingo.
Yeah, I mean, it could have even been, high in certain elements like potassium that has isotopes that were included in the original cola bottle that Mr. Keshe made. You can get special things out of it, including the monatomic hydrogen, which is the core of the whole reactor process and so on. Maybe it becomes a monatomic hydrogen generating carpet that's able to create a cloud around it. That's the way it goes. Let me spotlight you and pin that there so people can see it. That's beautiful, Doug.
You're looking at the bottom. of the rug. The warp and the weft. Yeah, that's the bottom. The warp and the weft are the different threads, and you can see if you look closely there. They're the back of the knots, the little knots. They're called Gordian knots or Geordi's knots in each cross of the threads. There's a little knot of wool tied, and so it's really a complex system of weaving. Now that's the bottom, and as you say, that's quite course. It's a solid weave. Now we flip it, and this is the what they call the pile, and that's the other end of the knots. Now there's probably 10,000 knots in this rug if you counted them, and each one tied by hand. That's why I've always been fascinated. Now, look, check this out. Look, there's a little arrow. And where's the other one? It's maybe not so clear, but there's another little arrow and another little arrow and another little arrow. And they are made with... to sacred geometry. So that there's a whole lot of interaction possible in, and it's made of wool, and this the base is made of cotton. So it's an absolutely amazing.
Have you guys ever thought of maybe the secret to the flying carpet is the gants that's in the cloth that's on your head, in addition to the carpet?
Yeah.
Like what kind of headgear are you wearing?
Yeah.
You're wearing a turban, or you're wearing some kind of special hat, or whatever.
Well, the picture,
just the carpet itself.
You notice in the picture that Rick showed, and which is now part of the video presentation. Has a young gentleman on a rug, and he is wearing a helmet or a headdress, and he's also got some kind of an incredible lamp or a device on board, which is, maybe that's more to do with the control, but if you can't get it off the ground in the first place and separate it from the gravitational fields and so on of the Earth, it won't go anywhere. So, we're at the very first steps. I think that's my thinking, is you coat or spray or dye the rug with a certain substance. We haven't got access to that particular clay, but we do have access to ganses, and we could possibly do what that clay did with ganses by spraying layers or whatever, on the bottom or on the top.
Entirely possible. I'm thinking a carpet, maybe even that size. What if it could be layered in such a way that it became a insulator of gravity? In other words, it became a shield, a gravity shield underneath you, and you can literally sit on it and you start hovering because you're no longer attached to the... it allows detachment from the effects of gravity. And that is essentially what prayer rugs and that sort of smaller rug like that does. It allows you to, people get used to doing their prayers on a particular space and location and on that rug, and it fuses it with the energy of what's occurs during those prayers and so on, and it becomes like a space and forms a bubble in that room, and it becomes easier each time because all the factors are in place to take you to that same space again. So in a way, it does detach one from the concerns of the physicality of prayer rug would tend to do that. Allow you to free your mind to do your higher mind functions for prayer.
Yeah, it's your own personal in their beliefs, their own personal little mosque or bubble, wherever it is put on the ground. It sort of for them shuts out all the externals, and they can concentrate on their prayer and their meditation. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like an oasis, the oasis idea.
Yep.
So the more ganzas and the more connection you can build into it in a way.
Yeah,
how would you elevate a rug? How would you elevate a rug?
Well,
is another question, another way to look at it. I'm just thinking, how would one elevate what's normally considered an inanimate object? Although when you mention what does it come from, it comes from cotton, which is a plant that grows out of the ground, and the wool, which is a substance that grows on an animal that feeds off of the plants that grow in the ground again. And in a way, it's wool is a pretty amazing substance in itself. It has a lot of qualities to it that make it really special. It's insulating qualities. We talked about an insulator. Well, actually, wool is in a way a perfect insulator.
You can put you put a blowtorch onto a finely woven or knitted piece of wool, and these experiments have been done, and it won't burn through.
Good point. Try that with a polyester shirt and see what happens.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Toast instantly.
Yes.
It melts onto
your skin. That's happened to because they're starting to make welding, they were making, what do you call it, mechanics clothes out of polyester, and they're just burning up like crazy compared to cotton, which is much better.
Yes.
But anyway, that's a whole other thing.
It is, but
that's interesting.
There are things in wool. Mr. Keshe has mentioned that the sheep are in there grazing around. The wool attracts gold and other substances.
Yes, Jason had found his golden fleece. Actually, is wool. And
Mr. Keshe said in a lot of things that are manufactured, and people think they're just shearing sheep just to get wool to make clothes. But
bingo! I just thought of something. You know what the most diamagnetic substance is? Diamagnetic means it repels magnetic fields. Okay, which is something which would be ideal in a plasmatic environment. You want your enclosure for your plasma to repel the plasmatic fields, the magnetic fields, to concentrate them together above in your craft, which is where you're sitting on your carpet. So it turns out that you mentioned gold. I bet you, again, 10 or even 100 to 1. I'm a betting man tonight. That they incorporated gold in those carpets. And that maybe that was even part of the so-called mud or dyes that they dyed with, because they had gold dyes back then, and they had that's what they used for.
They used to use gold thread.
That's what I was just going to say. Gold threads.
And also, the red color of stained glass was actually made with nano gold. That is the color of nano gold, and a certain nano size is red, and that's how they made the stained glass for the red color. So they were familiar with gold, nano gold, and so on. Turns out that certain geometric shape of nano gold in a certain pyramid shape is the most diamagnetic substance they've ever tested, more than bismuth, which was considered the most diamagnetic element at room temperature. But this certain structure of gold is even more so. So it would be almost a perfect reflector of plasmatic fields, and something that you would want underneath of you to focus the fields above where you were trying to do your business, basically. Or maybe focus them below the carpet. I'm not sure how that separation actually works. Maybe both in a way. So I'm just throwing that in there because I've read about that in scientific papers before, and I've seen how just due to the pyramid shape of these gold nanostructures is enough to create certain effects in themselves. And you can imagine you've got quite a thickness of if nanomaterial, if 30,000 layers is like just a very, very thin, look how thick that carpet is and how many nano layers you could fit in there amongst all that structure. You could have billions of layers of nanomaterials in there.
Absolutely. The other thing, Rick, they used to make very, 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 and still probably have, very elaborate rugs with gemstones and diamonds and various other things interwoven and placed in. Remember when you showed and you took a great interest in the underside of that painting of the rug, and you said, look, there's little shiny...
Yeah, let me show a picture of that here.
Yeah.
See one on, I think it's adequate quality. Let's have a look at it here. I'll just do a screen share.
Doug, are you trying to nano coat any part of that?
I'm thinking of not maybe nano coating, but spraying Gans water onto it. Yeah.
Okay, so there you see the basic picture there, or is it showing up? You see it okay, right? All right, so this is Ivan Tsarevich, the flying carpet. It's a hero of Russian folklore. It's a standard flying carpet picture that you've seen. I've had it as a screensaver on my iPad for 5 years, 6 years, and at first glance is kind of cool, but if you look at it, there's a lot of detail in this drawing as well. You get into all the accessories and on his clothing, and this weird thing that he's carrying. There's a whole story behind all that. But what I wanted to point out was the underneath of the carpet. I'm going to try to magnify this. Let's see if I can do that.
That's what I was just thinking, Rick. The underside. And
I'm going to try to magnify this as much as I can. It's very, very interesting. You'll see.
For some reason, I was thinking you could thermally shock nano coating off of copper and mix it in with the clay.
Well, you can actually make copper nanomaterials, black powder, quite very, very easily by using a vinegar solution of the copper, which is blue, and shocking it with some caustic, and it instantly makes black powder, which is the copper nano. Anyway, if you look at the bottom of this carpet, you see some strange inscriptions and things on there that are not at all the same pattern as the top of the carpet, as we can see, over on the, whoops, I just blew it there.
Yeah, the top is colorful, happy, organized, and the bottom has no order.
Well, it does have a different order, because when you look at it, it's got, for example, these symbols that look like the lines in South America that you see from the sky, the Nazca lines or whatever they're called, right? Yep. You see a couple of those there. You see this big thing on the bottom of the picture here, this reddish sort of thing that looks very much like a spaceship of some sort to me.
Like a ray. Like a ray, the fish?
Yeah, like a manta ray spaceship kind of deal. It's got all this, stuff on it, sharp edges that you wouldn't normally see on a ray. It looks more like a spaceship. And then this other one with the teeth-like thing on it, it's still, it doesn't look like, it looks more like something that would land as a spaceship rather than it's not an organic thing with those sharp edges and kind of landing feet that it has on it and so on. And even the little guy on the right side with the eyeball looks like an alligator or something. He's got some strangeness to him as well. It's a symbol rather than it doesn't mean the alligator. It's something else. And if you look, there's all these white spots that are like stars, and it's almost like, to me, a star map or some sort of communication with
the universe.
Or map to know where you're going or something like that. I don't know. It's intriguing. Yeah? Well, and I discovered this one day when I decided to have a closer look at it, and we blew it up like this. And it was like, whoa, what is all this stuff? Look at this guy up here.
Yeah, E.T.
That doesn't look like an alien. I don't know what is.
Right, yeah. And the one next to the ray down at the bottom does as well, like a cave drawing.
Yes, right. Now this is back in, let me see, it was, I don't have it here.
Go back, there is like an astronaut there.
I think it was 18 something, 17 something. It was a long time ago when this was made, right? Look at this little guy on the left side here. I just noticed there's two eyeballs and a nose. Pardon me?
Look at the top. Look at the top one. There is like a head. That one, like a head with two eyes.
Yeah. That was the little alien I was pointing out. And what's he got his hands onto? It's like the tail of this dragon thing, which has his mouth attached to this spaceship. So to me, this little guy here is attached to the spaceship through this alligator thing, and it's looking upward somehow. It's not looking, to me, it's looking at something else other than the spaceship. And what's connected to the little guy up in the upper part there? He's holding hands with something else. So it's all very much interconnected, and I'm sure the artist was very clear on what all this meant.
Is that the dog chasing its tail?
Yeah, it seems to be that that symbol in there. The snake that eats its own tail.
They're all entangled.
Yes, that's what I would say. So, pretty cool anyway.
Never realized the bottom was so intricate.
Yeah. And then this guy is quite a thing too. And how, he's got this thing he's holding. At first I thought this might be the power supply for the magic carpet or something. That's what I was envisioning. But as part of the myth or the story, I think he captures the phoenix. I think it's captured the phoenix, and he's bringing it back, basically.
Definitely a bird inside. Now that I look at it closely, a glowing bird, very shiny. Yeah.
Yes, very shiny, very shiny. So this is to me
the light.
Plasma. This is the.
There's a lot of code in that painting, I reckon. A lot of code. Yeah. Sorry, Rick.
I think. No, go ahead. That's right, Doug. There is a lot of.
The fact that he's accenting, actually, if you look at the whole painting, the bottom of the rug is showing more than the actual top of the rug. It's painted. It's not painted to show a beautiful flower scene on the top. It's really drawing your attention to the almost nano-coated underside of the rug because it's black, and all of these other things we're just noticing now that it's full of
you really have to magnify it to see it, because like if we were to go back to the way it was originally, you see a picture like that, your eyes go to the bright things. It goes to the guy, to the lamp he has, the bright part of the carpet, the bright sky, the birds maybe, and everything but the bottom of the carpet. Right? And you have to actually focus and have your attention even drawn to it, perhaps, to notice the bottom of the carpet. And it's an optical illusion that he would do really well in modern advertising, I'm sure.
Definitely. Oh, yeah.
And the expression of his face, like I'm holding the light.
Yeah, and he's got a definite destination somewhere in the future here. He's not focused on his carpet or where he is or anything. He's just, all right, let's go. We're going.
That's right. He's not sightseeing, is he? He's actually, he's definitely got his...
he's got a mission.
He has. Absolutely. Yep.
So that's not a fog light.
No, not a fog light, but it might be a beacon of some sort. Yes. So anyways, I just noticed there's even a moon in the background here. It appears to be. I hadn't seen that.
A crescent moon. Yeah, it looks like a crescent.
I think so. Yeah.
This is a free plasma.
Maybe. It could be the sun.
What's in his right hand?
Well, it seems to be a sword. You know, he's sort of got his hand on his trusty sword, perhaps. It looks like his glove is actually in his belt. So I'm thinking he's got this glove on his left hand holding the chain, and he's grounded through the chain, but he's holding it with his glove because it's a whole charged apparatus or something, and you have to be careful what you touch so you don't discharge it or whatever. Anyway, yeah, we could go on with all kinds of thoughts on that, I suppose. But I thought I'd draw that to your attention. You can let's go back to Doug there for a bit, and let me just.
So, yeah, all of that seems to indicate, there's a strong history, and maybe the science is lost, but we're now at this stage. And there's no reason why Mr. Keshe said you can put anything in the plasma envelope and go anywhere you like. And, you know, if we can make something like a little rug like this, an extension of our plasmatic fields in our bodies, because we've got reactors and we've got ganses, and that's sort of what I'm thinking is you just create a little platform or a little something to sit on, and
reactors and so on. It's good to get them off the ground level, to move them up on a table or even above a table, to sort of start that separation away from gravity, perhaps. But it actually, in a similar way that there's different field effects for plants that go closer to the ground, and ones that grow higher up have a different strength to them, a different effect. Okay, well, Lawrence has his hand up here and probably would like to say something. I'm not sure how long your hand's up. I hope it's not too tired there, Lawrence.
Oh, hello, good morning. I just wanted to say that this picture with the flying carpet is the same picture that Mr. Keshe was showing to us last time when he had his hand over the two designs he made somewhere before 2010. And also the same picture that he drew when he drew the sun and the earth that create free plasma due to their interaction. And and also when he explained, you know, about the soul reactor and the body reactor that we have in unison, it's all about giving from our soul to make the system fly. It's like, you know, we have to become the sun to the system that we consider the earth or the body reactor or the carpet, and charge it so long so that we create a free plasma due to the interaction with the thing that's being charged or the being that's being charged. It's giving our love to the body reactor. And then the body reactor, due to the interaction with our own fields in the middle, creates that free plasma, which is the soul, which is not bound to neither the sun nor the earth. But due to its interaction, because it's also charged and it has interactions with the fields of the sun and the earth, it starts emitting light. You know, that's the basic design of why we see light at the moment. It's the same principle. The sun and the earth can be considered the two trees of the birds flying in and forth. The bird is the free plasma that's been created by the trees. And here on this flying carpet rug design, we see the person. He's the sun. The rug is the body reactor, which is being fed by the emanations of the soul of the person controlling it. And the rug creates the bird that makes the rug fly. You know, there was this drawing where Mr. Keshe explained last time that the free plasma then starts interacting with the earth, and due to it being lower, it attracts the earth. So basically the earth is the body reactor that starts moving towards the free plasma. And it all starts with us giving. We have to give from our soul, just like when he wanted Naomi to stand up. Because we are also Ganses, we also have a soul. It's just, you know, getting used to giving.
Really good point, Lawrence. Yep.
And I also wanted to show you another thing. I will post the link now into the chat. It's the International Atomic Agency's periodic table. If you see it, it's all panelists. Maybe you can show it. It's about the basic thing, how we create the nano coating with the sodium and potassium, because we have the potassium isotope of 40, which has beta radiation. That's how we learned up until now. If you look at this chart, I hope Rick will put it up soon, you will see that there's a black line in the middle of the chart, and there's above the chart we have beta plus radiation, the greenish line, and below the chart we have beta minus radiation. And if you consider on the atomic level, this giving from our soul is basically this kind of beta radiation that's happening everywhere with each of the atoms and isotopes at all scales. And the reason why we use the sodium and the potassium are because they are close to each other. They are like, you know, sun and earth. And the beta radiation of the potassium will be behaving like this free soul between planets, between the sun and the earth that's created. And this beta radiation chart that you can check if you want, basically shows and explains to us that at all levels of the matter scale, if you want, you can hover on each of these little boxes and you will see also the half time. It's the T half. And then there's also a list of what kind of radiations at half time each of these isotopes give. at the bottom of this little box that appears. And wherever you see beta, it's basically the radiation that we use in the more efficient nano coating creation. But basically, if you see, it's all green and it's all blue, this whole chart at the lower levels. And it's all this kind of creation of the free plasma between the two similar strengths beings. And if we just turn this whole thing a little bit to the side, we would see a big spaceship. If you turn it about 30 degrees, you see it, there's the spaceship. It's got the physical layer which you can stand on, the black line, and the green line is above the physical layer where you can stand on, the stable line, and the blue line is below the physical layer that you can stand on. It's the plasma as stable on the Earth's level. I mean, like in the Earth's magnetic fields. Just turn this image about 45 degrees to the right in your head and have the black line level horizontal. Do you get what I mean with this beta radiation on the atomic scale and the whole principle also applying on the Earth, Sun and Earth, and how we need to give to initiate the process?
I'm still trying to figure out the chart here and what it means and so on. It might take some time to understand that.
Okay, just take a look at the green and the bluish, the turquoise colors.
Yeah, what's the EC? EC is what? One's EC plus beta plus, and one's the beta minus.
Take a look at the Wikipedia radiation. It's one where where a proton emits radiation, so that it's becoming a neutron, and the other is the neutron emitting some kind of radiation to become a proton. It's this hidden force that Mr. Keshe has been explaining about, where you take the same thing and pour it into 2 cups. The neutron giving birth to the electron. And it's this beta radiation that is highlighted on the potassium-40 on Wikipedia. It's this, if you take the ptable.com, it's another website where you have a periodic table. There you can see that it's the potassium-40 isotope that we use as radiation source to create the better quality guns. This is why he explained to us we should not only use the sodium hydroxide, but also the potassium hydroxide, because the potassium has this radiation source built in. And this table here shows that not only the potassium-40 has this beta radiation, but almost all of the isotopes have some kind of beta radiation, and half times. So that, which basically means that all the elements that we see, just as we learned with the ganses, transmute hin and force between each other by giving and receiving.
Hi, this is Moshfik speaking. Have you guys tried making GANs with potassium salts? Actually, they're quite different. I have tried zinc and carbon dioxide and zinc oxide and carbon dioxide, and the amount of GANs produced and the thickness is quite different from the potassium salts. Magnesium is, again, a little bit different, but they're different in quality. And so this is something very interesting. I've tried both potassium iodide and chloride, both, and both seems to have very similar effect. And if you're interested, I can show it to you. I have made GANs as well as some that are happening.
Sure, that'd be fine.
The point is to use always two salts, two similar salts, because then you have, just like, you know, the sun and the earth, two similar fields that start interacting with each other. It's always about the creation of this free plasma by inducing one to give freely.
Or you can use two GANs produced by two different salts in the combination, and that creates a similar effect as well.
Yes. This is why
and
we
by
use
the way, what EC means is electron capture in your diagram, because positron emission and electron capture are considered to be equivalent terms. Beta plus is electron capture, by the way, and just for clarification. So anyway, should I share it? Okay, let me see whether I can do it.
Sure, go ahead. I'll stop the share here. And okay, you should be able to share.
Where is the camera? Okay, so here are a lot of different, these are all carbon dioxides of different kinds of arrangements. This is the potassium. Look at the amount of things on the top.
I don't know if we're getting your screen share yet, though.
Well, I'm sharing my video.
It's a camera.
Oh, the camera. Okay, just a minute here. I thought you were doing a screen share. Oh, there we are.
So this is the potassium chloride. Iodide is similar, both zinc oxide and this is carbon dioxide. So this is like, I went away for 2 months, and after 2 months, this looks like this. If you look at the bottom, I'll try to see whether you can see the amount of GAN. This is carbon dioxide, and the zinc plate is inside, and there are 2 zinc plates inside, and the outside is the nano-coated on both sides. So all these are, there's a whole production going on here, but there are different salts, but then different arrangements. So this one is zinc oxide. No, this is not zinc oxide. This is potassium chloride. I think I may have a potassium iodide. Here is the other one, which is the iodide, which is very similar, actually. And in one of these small boxes, I'll just show you. These boxes are very small, and the amount of zinc potassium iodide GANs I got from one of these small boxes. This is my hand, so you can see the dimension of the box, very small. And this is the amount of GANs I got from just one time, and it's a lot. I mean, I've never seen this amount of production in such a short time. So anyway, this is just to give you an idea of how potassium salts make things a bit different. So this is one of my example of one of my experiments.
So do we notice color changes or texture changes? What do you notice? It's a little hard for us to tell with the pictures.
Normal zinc oxide next to it, and you'll see the difference. So there is the normal zinc oxide next to it. So there's definitely a difference. And the amount, kind of like, this was made like 2 separate batches. The left one is 2 separate batches combined. And this was, the right one is just one batch. So the amount is significantly different. Anyway, so just to give you an idea of what.
Hello, Theodore. Did you want to say something? You have a question? Hello, Theodore. Did you have a question? Okay, see your mic's off there now. Okay.
Sorry, it's blocked my mobile.
Okay, thanks.
All right, I'll turn off my camera.
All right, thank you, Mosfak. That's cool to see your setup there.
Are you making zinc oxide with 2 oxygens or with 1 oxygen?
This I don't know. I mean, I'm writing 2 oxygen, but I'm not sure. I don't have an instrument to test, but these are with zinc, nano-coated zinc, and normal zinc. I'm not using nano-copper plates for this kind of these productions.
Eventually, it will be with 1 oxygen. So take care when you make calculations based on field strength and mass ratios.
That's a very good point. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you for sharing the great, how to say, setups and the nice products.
Could you expand on that point with 1 oxygen, Standor?
ZNO. That's the zinc oxide usually. It's the most common. That's
You
the
said
common
it's
zinc.
making it with 1 oxygen or 2.
Yes. But usually is with 1.
I'm not understanding the meaning of 1 or 2 oxygens. What does that mean if you're making it with 1 or 2 oxygens?
Have you learned chemistry in the school about the chemical formulas?
Right. I don't want to go back to basics and let's keep.
Yeah, those basics are needed to understand it. Sorry. Those basics are needed to understand the chemical formulas. So it's usually 1 atom of zinc combined with 1 atom of oxygen. In case of copper oxide, you have a larger variety. You have many combinations, like 1 copper with 1 oxygen, which is a black color, or 2 coppers with 3 oxygen, which is a reddish color, or you have 1 copper with 2 oxygens, which is a green turquoise color, and so on. In case of needing fast information, I recommend to look up into the Wikipedia.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alrighty. Just get my microphone. Mark, I see your video is on, but it's black for some reason. Not sure if you wanted that on or not.
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm not sure if I can turn it off, so.
Just an addition that zinc peroxide, which is ZnO2, that's usually a yellowish color. And the zinc oxide, ZnO, it's a white color.
Okay, very good.
Rick, my share video camera is red with the arrow through it, so I don't think it's on.
No, it's not on now. It was stuck there for a bit. I don't know why.
Okay, thanks.
It's fine. It's all good there now. All right, so anybody else have something they'd like to share? We've got a couple more attendees that have come in here recently. Anybody with anything in particular they'd like to share, or any questions on what's been shared, or new concepts or ideas you'd like to bring up?
When he showed that atomic plasma chart that looked like space there and the black line through it, I was thinking of the center line of the universe. I don't even understand that.
Yeah, there is a picture of the center line of the universe, basically, of the sort of a long, drawn out line with the center and then all the galaxies and so on overlaid on it.
On that chart, that black line actually is made up of black squares. It's that area which is made of all the stable elements, the stable isotopes. And the rest are the unstable ones which are not staying forever in that shape. Try to magnify. You have a plus in the left upper left corner of the screen. You with mouse also? Yes, that's one. There's a small plus. You can magnify it further so you can see also numbers and element symbols. So the black ones are the stable ones.
For example, carbon would be a good one. We have carbon 12, carbon 13.
Also, you can choose that little. There is another interesting feature here in this little window. Oh, let me use another color. Here you can write the symbol of the element. For instance, C for carbon, then hit enter and see what happens. It acts like a filter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let's try nitrogen. So these are all the isotopes of nitrogen, for example.
It is a very nice live interactive chart, which you can use it for study.
Oh yeah, you can get into all kinds of details on it here if you like.
It was just a similarity that I saw and didn't understand.
I can't get rid of this picture now. Oh, I can't close the little box anymore, so anyway, people can have a look at that if they wish and get into it in more detail. I'm not gonna
just reload it
right now. Okay, is there any more to share, or should we wrap things up here? Anything else? Any burning issues or serious questions that must be answered right now so you can get your spaceship in gear for this week? Pay a special visit to some sector of the universe. No, hey? Everybody's straight on that one? Gonna work on the spaceship on the weekend. Get it ready for next Tuesday's presentation. We need to see some examples of at least a shimmering light, if not an actual lift, levitation, positive positioning example. I think it's becoming time in our collective group evolution here. We've been at this now, the Keshe Plasma Reactor group, for probably close to 5 years. I think it's time we get some, well, we've had concrete results. I can't say that we haven't had concrete results. We've had lots of results. In fact, we've had the best kind of results. We've had people with changes of their being, which is the best kind of results you can possibly ask for, actually. But
hi, Rick.
Being the greedy people that we are, that I am, I'd like to see some physicality results. Hello, Jalal. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Hi, guys. I have a question for Danny.
Okay.
I'm here.
Danny, you were in the private teaching 2015?
Yeah, I believe that was it. Yes.
Okay. I think you missed teaching of Mr. Keshe in that period in September. And you was there, and I think he taught you how to make the free plasma ball.
Well, he hinted it was possible to make. And he hinted that it was going to be, you were to use your emotions to do such a thing.
And also you can use the matter to do that.
The what?
The matter state, you can do it with the matter state,
all right.
the free plasma.
Okay.
If you remember, you can go to the private teaching 2015, September, if that clicked in you something. I know you will not remember it because all of this huge amount of teaching.
Right.
But if you go back there, I think it will click. We will give you a pretty good idea how to make it.
Jalal, I was going to bring that story up, but I didn't want to mix up the matter state and the plasma state so much. You know, the two tracks that are being worked on simultaneously, because Mr. Keshe did show representing the ball in your hand and then placing it in the starship so it would stand like then he wanted it to stand by itself.
You know, we are using the matter to make gases and to make field of plasma and capturing the free plasma. So it doesn't matter. The main purpose here that you succeed to have the free plasma, which any matter you like. Even he said in the space there is no motors, there is nothing such a thing. But and somehow we here on Earth we managed to make motors, and this is something unique in the universe. And we can also use them. That is not the it's not the issue. It's not problem. You see, in your body, whatever you eat, what matter is outside, it's matter. But when you put it in your mouth, finished. It is in plasma condition. So we need to little bit extend the what you call it, not the knowledge. The knowledge is there, but the open view here we don't need to be restricted in not only in the matter state, we don't go to the plasma, or only in the plasma, we don't go to the other levels of fields, because there is field, because all of it is plasma in a way, all of them, matter state, solid state, liquid state, all of them is plasma. You need to organize them in a way that will benefit for you or what you are doing. If you need a joint in your body, you can put a matter, and in the same time the matter behave as a because it is in a plasma state, it's already in your body, so it's not a problem to think about that. But the main thing here that Danny was there in the teaching, and it seems when I saw your kit and you are going to go to the free plasma, I said, oh, wait a minute. He was there. Why don't he remember it? Because I know it is 3 years of teaching. So many will missed, or in that time you didn't have the real comprehending of the knowledge. Go back to September, and you will find your solution how to make real free plasma. And you can do it in this CO2 box. And you can do it in so many methods. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for the hint there, Jalal, for research. We have a question from Keong in the chat regarding the commandments, what he calls the commandments of Mr. Keshe. What will happen if someone fails? In Islam and Christian, the rules, in Islam and Christian rules, the outcome is clear. But what about his commandments? I come from Christianity and love Mr. Keshe. So what will happen if someone fails regarding the commandments that have been said? I guess he's talking about the secondary commandments after the 10 commandments. I think there's 11 other commandments that were added by Mr. Keshe. So what if we fail in them? Well, my answer would be is that you answer to your soul. And if you fail to clear yourself with your relationship with your soul in that way, then there'll be some sort of repercussion from it, just because that's the way the universe works.
Adding, Rick, there is no judgment, so no one can judge you, only yourself.
Right, exactly. That's what I was trying to say.
You forgive yourself, you're forgiven.
So it was also a similar thing, and we were working with the names of God, the 99 names of God, and the various aspects of the absolute, or God, you might say. So, and that you could try to incorporate these aspects in your life. And it's not that easy to do, to live up to the high expectations of, you know, some of these high ideals. And what if you fail? What if you fail to, you know, be fully tolerant to all beings that you meet, or whatever thing, whatever theme, whatever aspect of the absolute or of God you happen to be working with that day to try to attain? What happens if you fail to? What happens if you don't act with full integrity, or you mistreat someone or abuse someone or some other animal or being or something? what if you lose your temper, for example, and end up speaking harshly to someone? Well, it's that's something you have to answer to yourself for eventually. I mean, it may affect others and so on and so forth, but the important thing is, how does it affect you? What actually happens when, for example, when we lie? If we lie to ourselves, is there repercussions? Well, if we're aware of it, certainly is.
Can I answer that, please?
Yes, surely.
Look.
I mean, your name's not Shirley, but go ahead, Jalal.
Thank you. Look, here in Earth, we have physicality and we have matter and we have all kinds of plasma strength. In space, the same thing, but they are dealing with energy. So every one level, it have its own energy. So if you take without permission, that means you are not going higher level. No, this is a weight. It will come to you without giving. So you will go down in the levels of the plasma.
Reduce your strength.
Yes, it will reduce your strength. So the main purpose here is that even if this technology, even this sign of the prophets, this is only science. It's not really something you cannot approach or you cannot understand. When you give, you gain strength, so you go higher. Even if it's at 1 of million of millimeter, let's say in this, what you call it, spiral. So whatever you do there, in here, you can go back and you say, oh, okay, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I will make it for you. In space, there's not such a thing. You need to be 100% sure that what you do there, it will not reduce your strength or take out from your strength. That's all. There is no judgment outside there. You judge yourself, because when you lose strength, you will go 1 level down or 2 level down or 3 level down. And this levels, you gain it here on Earth for maybe, let's say, 100 years to have this kind of energy to work with it. And you go outside and you do something wrong, not in our eyes, something wrong that you give a field without asking, or you take fields without permission. So in this way, that will change your field. When you change your field, you will join another plasma field. You see, joining plasma with other plasma in, let's say, community. Which community you will go in? That it is depend on your strength. What you gain here in Earth, of knowledge, of kindness, of love. That's all. No one judge you, because there is no time for judging. Okay, you done something wrong. Okay, in 1 second you go back. No. This 1 second here in Earth and space, it will bring you back maybe 1,000 of years or 1,000 of energy strength. You must be prepared from here that if you go to space, and you will go, not today, in 1 year, in 10 years, in 100 years, in 1 million years, you will reach this position. So from now, if you go the right way, you understand what you are doing. You understand you cannot take what is not for you. You cannot allow someone to take from you, because this is your shielding. There is so many stronger plasma outside there, more than you. So if you allow them that they take strength from you, they don't allow that. But if you come and you want to give, and you, without knowing, you will join them, because you will be part of them. But is that good for you? That is depend. This is your judgment. Let's say this is your judgment. Only you will be losing or gaining from this space energy. And thank you.
And Mr. Keshe's words, which I remember on judging: I don't judge no one, and I don't let no one judge me.
Yeah, that's a good way to paraphrase that whole concept, I think. So it's personal in a way, but it also includes everyone else. You have to maintain your own plasma, but also respect the plasmas of others. It's a fine dance, the dance of the universe. Anybody else care to partake in a comment? Just looking at the Keong mentions, so if you lie, for example, you will lose energy or plasma. And he mentions that could be a very, very good explanation.
And stealing from your own soul.
Yes, of course, you are stealing from your own soul.
And if you gain energy that you didn't earn, then in a way you will lose it again, because it's not yours to gain.
Yeah, you must pay 3 times.
Yes,
so,
right.
Yeah, so
you burn your fingers 3 times handling that hot potato. Okay, I'm thinking we should probably wrap things up here.
It's all energy, Rick. It's all energy.
What's all energy?
Everything is energy.
Everything is energy?
Yes.
How could it be a thing if it's energy?
The main thing here, that the soul is package of energy.
It's all
you
field.
Take from it, yes, you take from it or you add for it.
It's all fields, fields, as they say. Yeah, it's a great perspective. If you can attain that perspective of things being fields, not things, but what we perceive as fields rather than the physicality objects and all the representations thereof, which are essentially illusions of objects and illusions of the things in our space. Even the illusion of another person, unless we include the fields, because the fields are what's actually there, and the appearances are not actually there. So that's a bit of the conundrum that we find ourselves in as humans, trying to discern when to view things in one manner and when to view things in another manner. And we can get stuck quite easily as humans on different levels, as Mr. Keshe has mentioned, the nano level, the GANs level, the plasma level, and then the plasma manipulator level. being some of, and then the matter level being at the bottom of all of those. So we can find ourselves in any one of those levels, or we can learn to shift between one level and another, depending on what's appropriate for the circumstances. Maybe it's not always appropriate to be the working in the plasma level, and sometimes you have to work back on the matter level or nano or GANs level in order to attain something that's part of your goals for your creation, your life. And maybe other times we need to escalate, to elevate ourselves up the level. I mean, we're stuck in the matter level, or stuck in the GANs or nano level, or depending. And if we know that there's levels that you can elevate yourself to, that gives you a big handle up on being able to make some sort of change, to entertain at least the possibility that there could be a level that's higher than the level that we find ourselves at. And if we know that possibility, then we can always find a way. We can always find a ladder once we know there's another story to move to.
Mr. Keshe said there always be higher. There is higher.
Yep. It's pretty hard to go all the way.
Yeah, we are in nursery.
We don't want to go all the way all at once, because then all the fun is gone about being on this planet.
You cannot.
You
You
can't.
cannot. You are nursery.
You can only go to the next level if your field strength is increased.
Yeah,
in school we are in the nursery.
You could try to bypass, but there's no skipping grades, really. All right. Any other comments you want to put in there?
Are you going back and studying, Rick? Somehow, I feel that you are studying in somehow.
Pardon me? Going back to studying?
Yeah.
How do you
Are
mean?
you? You?
Well, in a way, yes. And I'm going back to basics in terms of experiments and my concepts and so on. Is that what you mean? That kind of thing?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel that. I feel that in your talk.
Yeah, I think that this whole teaching, call it this, the whole plasma technology teaching, is a study in always going back to basics. I mean, we always refer back to these very basic concepts, and we always come back to source. We always are referring back to the free plasma, the source, the soul being the center, the source, the origin. So I think that part of this whole thing is that we always have to come back to that free plasma source origin deal. And yes, we can extrapolate and make fancier and fancier devices and so on, but we always have to come back to remind ourselves of the source, where we came from, who we are, who we really are. And the physicality stuff, the nano stuff, the GAN stuff, and so on, is part of the supporting structure for finding out that source, that getting back to that source, I believe. So one way or another, we are very fortunate to be in this time and space to be able to share with each other and try to elevate ourselves, trying to drag ourselves up by our own bootstraps, you might say. But I can think of no better game on this planet to be playing than the elevation game. So seems to be in agreement with many people these days, which is very, very encouraging. So I think that's where the global peace will come from, when we find peace in ourselves and amongst ourselves, and are able to communicate with each other, and communicate inside of ourselves, actually, between our center, our soul, our source, and our physicality, and try to resolve that great divide that lies between the two. How do we deal with this thing that's been called a parasite and a leech? The physicality has been called a leech on the soul. How could this be, this thing that we treasure so much, our physicality, our body, and all the stuff that goes with that, perhaps even our treasured emotions and everything else that we normally think of as ourselves? Is that all part of the leech, part of the parasite that the soul encounters from its perspective? Something to think about. It gets a little weird when you contemplate things that way, but it's probably closer to reality than most of us think. Anyway, I didn't want to get too far out there at the end, but so we find ourselves sometimes. Skywalker speaking about far out there, our last comment: is there sex among aliens? The all-important question. Well, I think we're all aliens of one kind or another, so that should give you a pretty clear answer. However, they say that angels may not have the organs for sex, so depends how far you want to go, I guess.
Perhaps one it was.
Pardon me? Say again.
Sorry, perhaps one it was told that if you become the man of the space, after a short time, you will lose two things. One is the digestive system, and second are the sexual organs. So those enjoying to eat a lot and to try to reproduce, practice reproducing a lot, they'll be
You're making me laugh.
Well, it's true that for most humans, that's how we spend, most of our time and attention, especially when we're younger, is taken up with those activities. So, and that becomes quite a distraction, actually, and what's more or less grounds us to this planet. So it's something to think about. Maybe that we could bring up that top. It sounds almost like a whole topic for a show here or something. So,
Rick, one guy was trying to teach another guy something, and the other guy that he was trying to teach he said, "Why should I learn that? I already know more than I use." But that also relates to us. We all know more than we're using.
This is true. Okay, I'm trying to remember if there's any announcements or anything else I should be mentioning here. There's lots of interesting links with the Keshe Foundation these days. With the kfssi.org website is a nice website, lots of information. There's also the KF Wikipedia, KF Wiki it's called. And that's developing out nicely with lots of language translations now and information available to people. And let me see what else is going on. There's it's getting better and better to search through Google and YouTube for various videos and descriptions and how-tos and that sort of thing. It's becoming quite an available world now of things, plasmatically speaking. And I think we have a new website page that'll be coming up shortly with all links to various aspects of the Keshe Foundation teachings and the GANs and plasma and all the different areas. So there'll be links to different categories of things. So it'll be one page you can go to be able to access the other pages of information. And that's pretty sorely needed at this point. Yeah, what other things? Keshe Foundation is selling soap. Yes, sir. We sell soap. So it's a plasma soap, and we'll see a promotion of that in the Knowledge Seekers Workshop coming up Thursday at 9 a.m. Central European Time. So stay tuned for that one. And please tune in to this plasma reactor group, which hopefully will be occurring at the same time and place next week as well, as it has for the last 5 years continuously every week. And hopefully we'll carry on that way. I almost didn't make it this week because of the blackout here. But with some help from Vince and friends, then things all came together. So thanks to everybody for contributing today and making this group possible. It's without you, I would not be here. Alrighty, so wrap up for today. Once again, thanks to everybody for attending on the live stream and other social medias, as well as in the Zoom chat and as panelists and attendees. I think that's it for today. Okay, I'll shut down the various avenues here.
Thanks a lot, Rick.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, everyone.